My guest is Channing Frye, NBA champion, co-founder of Chosen Family Wines, lead analyst for Turner Sports. You can find him on social media at Channing Frye. Channing, thanks for joining me on Sports Business Radio. How are you?
I mean, I'm good. Just dropped my kids off from our at basketball camp over here in LO and just starting the day by talking.
Well, let's start with this. You and I got to meet in person last week. We're both from Phoenix.
Yeah.
Explain the St. Mary's Brophy rivalry to those who don't know. So you went to St. Mary's, I went to Brophy. Obviously, I'm older than you, but for people that don't know, what's that rivalry like?
So I think it starts with like history and tradition. Both of them are Catholic schools from two different dioceses, right? I think that's how you say it. And so I think the best way to explain it is, from the perspective of a layman, of somebody that needed to know something about Brophy. Brophy tended to be the doctors, lawyers, CEOs, kids who went there, where St. Mary's was the firefighter, policeman, and two parents that are working house, right? One is boys and girls, Brophy Xavier. Another one, St. Mary's, was a tradition, had been a girls' school that turned into a smaller school. So that's just what it looks like from the outside. But when you really kind of break it all down, all these kids come from across the state to go to these really storied and historic schools. And the rivalry is intense because kids, again, are coming from all across the state. I feel like there is a sense of pride where neither school recruits. I wasn't recruited. I actually had to take the test and go there. And actually, the funny story about these two schools was I went to St. Mary's. I took the test. I was, so in Chandler, it was 789. So I went to high school. I had to go to a private high school by my parents. I took the test. I walk out and the assistant coach of the basketball team goes, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going back home," right? And I'm talking to my dad and he's talking to me. He's like, "Well, why don't you come to a basketball game?" And I was like, He was like, "It's St. Mary's Brophy." So I said, "Okay, I'll go." So I went and I had no clue about the rivalry. And this place, it's a small one-sided gym at St. Mary's, three big swamp coolers in Phoenix. So it's nasty in there. And so I got to sit or stand more likely behind the bench during this game. And one side is all red, the other side is all green, and people are just screaming and yelling. It was just like, it is the best form of basketball and the best form of rivalry I've seen in a long time. And basically, I told my dad, whichever team wins, that's what school I'm going to. And so actually, St. Mary's was down by 2. Somebody went to go shoot a free throw. He makes the first one, misses the second one, and Donnell Knight, which is a wild name, tipped the ball in, and St. Mary's won by 1. So that same assistant coach, after the game, after he celebrates, comes to me and goes, "Hey, meet your new teammates," right? And Jason and James Fontenette were playing in that game, and they were freshmen. So we end up having to work out every single day after that, and we end up winning a state championship. So that's how I went to St. Mary's over Brophy, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I know it's a wild story, but it's the truth. So, things happen for a reason.
So wait, you really would have gone to Brophy if they had
without
won
a doubt,
that game?
Without a doubt. After watching that game, I had a lot of respect and still do for Brophy's, the way they do things, their educational practices. Same what my parents did, and then their team. So they had a really good team. So growing up, and especially with St. Mary's and Brophy had one AAU team, right, called Phoenix Catholic. So Brophy had 4 Division I basketball players on it, right? And then St. Mary's had 3, and then we had 1 football scholarship. So there was 7 D1 players on these 2 teams. So the level of play was great. If I had gone there, we would have started a lineup of, let's say I was 6'10" at the time, 6'10", 6'10", 6'9", 6'7", and 6'6". as a starting. It could have been the best team in the history of basketball, or best in the history of Arizona. But it just so happened I went to St. Mary's, and then our team was 6'10". Then the next guy was 6'2", 6'3". We had the shortest team in the league other than me.
Oh my gosh, what a great story.
Oh man. Yeah, man, I forgot about these stories. This is great.
Yeah, we could just do the whole podcast on St. Mary's Brophy stories.
Oh man,
who was playing for the Suns when you were coming up and you were like, watching NBA ball? Who were some of the guys? Was that KJ and those guys?
Elliott, Sox Perry. You had Kevin Johnson. You had that year where Danny Manning got hurt. Dan Marley, Oliver Miller, obviously Charles Barkley. You had Mark West. You had. Oh man, I mean, I could keep going, but I think those years was when I really, when John Paxson hit that shot, I ran outside like, no, that was the thing. I remember, Jason Kidd and his shoes, those like sneakers that he came out with were ridiculous. The little alien guys. Those are my top 5 all-time favorite shoes. I mean, I didn't get a chance to go to a lot of games, and whenever I did, they were usually up at the top at the arena. But from watching it as a kid to being able to play there my senior year in a championship, well, both junior and senior year. Junior year we lost, senior year we won, and then to be able to play for the Suns was crazy as a Phoenician, right? As a guy who grew up in Phoenix, Chandler, Arizona. That was a dream come true, especially in my career, to have an opportunity to come play at home.
Yeah. What was it like playing in the NBA? Because you played, you're an NBA champion. You won a title with the Cleveland Cavaliers. You played with LeBron, and there it is. Wow. Look at that. Wait, hold that up again. We got to see that.
Just keep it right here.
Yeah. That is amazing.
That's a big ring.
I
have a big thing. That's a big ring.
Wow. That is awesome. What an incredible experience. Not many people have a chance to win a championship. You did it with some of the greats. It seems like that team was really tight. You and Kevin Love are in business together now. We'll get to that in a minute. You and Richard Jefferson are doing a podcast together, Road Trippin. I know you and LeBron are close. What is it like winning a championship and kind of building that bond, going through all the battles?
So I've known Richard since I was 14. He's from Phoenix too.
Right.
He went to Moon Valley. So my story with that team is kind of like trial under fire. I was in Orlando and I got traded in February. Everyone thought I was with the team all year, but I was in the drubs in Orlando. Yeah. And we were getting our butt whooped every single day. I finally got traded to Cleveland. And my attitude going to Cleveland was like, yo, guys, like, we're really good. Like, why is nobody happy, And so I just felt like, for me, I wanted there to be good communication. I wanted things to be fun. I had met Kevin before, and Kevin Love is a really, really good player. All right, I know I'm saying that, but so for me, having to guard him when I was in Phoenix and other places, I usually have to put my guard up around him because I didn't want him to get an advantage on me, because it was hard enough trying to guard this guy. So when I first met him, I was kind of a dick, right? So I was kind of mean to him. And he's such a nice guy that he still to this day gives me crap about how mean I was to him when we first met, right? And, now it's my best friend. Obviously went to his wedding, all these kind of things. But when I went to a team, I just felt like there was a disconnect between the different groups on the team. And it wasn't anything that anyone did on purpose. It was just more Kyrie's young, Kevin keeps to himself, and Braun lives a Braun world. And so to connect them, I was just like, dude, guys, let's just go to dinner more, right? Let's go to dinner more. Let's go have a drink. Let's watch film. Let's, hang out together. And it seemed to grow. It seemed to connect people and make them more empathetic toward each other. And so when you go on a championship run, there can't be any cracks in your boat, or else you're going to sink. And there were no cracks on our boat from 15 to 1, right? Like James Jones wasn't really going to play, but he was really a leader. He was the guy that could yell at LeBron. He was the guy that was holding everyone accountable, along with LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin and Tristan. So there was nothing in there that anybody could say to us or that we couldn't say to each other. And we kept it very real, and guys were ready. There was nothing else on anyone else's mind other than winning that game or that day or that practice. The competition and the competitiveness of each person was wild. Like in practice, coach would have to, if we were playing pickup, coach would have to like shut the lights off, because if one team lost, they would want to keep going. Right? It was like, dogs who have a problem, with people touching their food. That's how ravenous guys were to win, and how locked in they were. So it was fun, man. Everything was a competition, everything, especially when we start to play. It was like, turn it on, and then it was like some dogs coming out. It was crazy. And then you have high-level guys, Kyrie, obviously Iman Shumpert's a really good player, Richard, myself, LeBron, Kevin, Tristan, and guys are just one after another, Dele, Mozgov, like crazy. It was wild. So much fun.
Wow. What was it like winning in Cleveland? I mean, that city had been starving for a championship, and it's like winning 10 championships, just winning one there.
Yeah, I think, for me, it was the city. I wanted to see the city. And I live in Portland for a reason, because of the people, because of the ease of life, right? Nothing's a hassle. Obviously, the weather now is absolutely beautiful. It was kind of crappy a month or two ago, but it's worth it. And so the same with Cleveland. Those are amazing people. They are loyal. They know sports. They love sports. They're competitive. They are extremely passionate about their teams and knowledgeable. And so winning in Cleveland was bananas. Not only because you have LeBron, who's from Cleveland, but because of, again, like you said, 50 years between the championship. And for us to have the best championship in the last 25, 30 years, also being down 3-1, made it even more crazy. And for us to have beat the crap out of, basically swept the first three teams in the Eastern Conference, and then go up against that crazy good team of Golden State, for us was just amazing for us to lock in that much and to be that dedicated to each other and committed to each other into winning.
All right, so you finished playing basketball and you've transitioned now into broadcasting. You're a podcaster with Road Trippin with you and Richard Jefferson and Allie Clifton. You've got the role with Turner. How have you transitioned into broadcasting and podcasting?
Well, I like to talk, so that helps. And then secondly, Road Trippin was something that we did during that championship year.
Yep.
That was just supposed to be practice for Richard, right? It started out with Richard, hey, Channing called me on the hotel. I need to practice, because I want to get into broadcasting when I'm done. So come up here and let me interview you. I got Allie up here. And I was like, well, I'm not coming up there unless you feed me and give me a bottle of wine. He's like, all right, fine. What you want? I was like, chicken fingers and a bottle of Pinot Noir. What's up? So we go up to the training room, which is a big suite. And there's one mic. And we're sitting there and we're getting ready to start. We're getting all the headphones on. And Kyrie walks in. So Kyrie's like, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, we're just doing a podcast. So he gets ice on his knees or whatever treatment he needs. And he comes and sits down. So then I turn into one of the hosts. And that's how it actually started.
Wow.
So we just kept interviewing people over and over again. And I took your advice. In last episode, we went back to another episode where we interviewed Tim Duncan, who is my idol basketball-wise. And we were laughing. And Richard asked him a joke, was like, who does Pop hate more, me or Trump?
Wow. Oh, my God.
Right? It was so funny. But this is like, 6-7 years ago. Right. And Tim Duncan goes, well, since if you were here every day, probably you. But since you've been gone, definitely Trump. But it was so funny. And then we have interviews with Derrick Rose and LeBron and Kyrie and Kyle Korver and Derek Williams. And so it's awesome to have gone from that to where I am now, to have the opportunity to work at Turner, and just to watch basketball. It's a dang game. and I get to fly to Atlanta and literally sit in the studio and talk basketball for a couple hours, and that's my job. So it's freaking awesome.
I mean, when you were going to U of A, is this something that you had on your radar that, like, when I'm done playing hoop, I want to be in broadcasting?
No, you know what? When I went to U of A, I wasn't even thinking, when I first went to U of A, I didn't even think I was going to make the league. I was just, I just want to play.
Right.
They thought they were going to have to redshirt me my freshman year. And I didn't start the first half of the season for my freshman and sophomore year, which is crazy to think. And then all of a sudden, like, I had a really good tournament, and there wasn't a lot of centers my senior year other than Andrew Bogut. So basically, I was the second best center of that draft, and I went 8th. And so for me, I just always look at the next step. I love talking basketball. I love being in good conversations about sports in general, just the mindset of it. I always want to do right by the player. Now, I'm going to call it how I see it, but I'm trying my best at all times to never talk about the person, only what you're putting, only the product that's out there. And I think sometimes a lot of broadcasters kind of melt into that area about talking about the player instead of talking about the product that the player put out there, right? And I think we got to keep those two things separate, especially in today's age, because guys are very sensitive to that because of how much that's happening to them on social media or other broadcasts.
Yeah, that is an interesting kind of predicament.
Yeah.
What's your prep like for the Road Trippin podcast, or when you're going to be doing some analysis on Turner? Are you spending hours, or are you just kind of a sit down and go with the feel of the game? What's your prep?
Road Trippin is get a bottle of wine, get a glass, go sit down. What we're talking about today. And then Turner is a little bit more, right? Turner is for my show Handles that was on Fridays. I'm a co-host with that. And so for that one, I have 4 or 5 games going on TVs, and I'm sitting there with 2 or 3 other people, and we're choosing the games and the clips to pull. Because I think regardless of your record, each team deserves to get looked at. I think if you remember old school ESPN would play a clip of every single game that was on. I think we need to get back to that. And that's what we try to do at Handles, is play a clip from almost every single game, because those players are pros. They get paid. They deserve to get shown, especially if they have good highlights or especially if they're playing good. Sometimes your team stinks, but you're good. So for me, I want to watch a lot of the games so that I have a base of how this team plays, who's their main guy, is he playing well, is he on a streak, is he 10 games of 25 points, 30 games of 25 points. And then other than that, you just got to know basketball. You got to know what's a good shot, what's not. Where is the culture of basketball going, right? When I came in, it was post-ups. Then it went to 4 out, 1 in, right? With a lot of screen and rolls. And now it's 5 out with European centers at the helm, really taking over the league.
Yeah. All right. We met at the coffee shop the other day, and you had some really interesting thoughts on the collegiate landscape. Yeah. And we've got all this realignment going on. We've got USC and UCLA going from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten.
Right.
If I put you in charge of college athletics, I mean, look, Mark Emmert is out as the NCAA president. We said, hey, Channing, you're the new president of the NCAA.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, so I'm starting with football, and we're getting away with the conferences for college football. For me, we need to acknowledge that the SEC, the big time schools, are what people want to see, right? And you notice that's why USC, UCLA are going to a conference better in football so that they can recruit better. They get better ratings for TV. It's going to be better for the NCAA. It's better for the players, better for the coaches. And it also gives the teams at a lower tier an opportunity to recruit correctly. So what I would do is take your top 20 teams. And now you have to look at the last 10 years. You would take your top 20 teams. They have been, in the top 25 for consistent, like Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Michigan State. And you would put them on a top tier, almost like European football, or soccer, as people in America call it. And that would be your Grand Cru, top of the league, and those teams would play each other. Then the next tier would be like your USC, Oregon, UCLA, Cincinnati might be in there. I would probably put Cincinnati in the top tier, like an Oklahoma State, depending on where that is. Now, if you are in this tier, you are going to be playing top tier every single game each week. Is going to be the game of the week. Right. That's what people want to see. And if you are last in this league, you go down to the next tier. And if you are first in the next tier, you go up to the next tier, right? Because that way you could see your team grow. If you have a really good quarterback and you're at USC and all of a sudden you win your league you win your league, you go to the next tier because that's where you should be playing players at your level. And it's going to be better for ratings. It's going to be better for scheduling. It's going to be better for the fans because then you're going to get a Michigan, LSU, Michigan, Florida game in the middle of the season where you're not getting these little drubby games the first four. And then all of a sudden you're missing 3 or 4. Like it ain't it.
Okay. So that's football. What are you doing with hoops?
Hoops is a little different to me. Hoops, I would make it a lot more like the NBA. And this is my problem with college. I don't think college prepares players to be NBA players. I think the NCAA game I think the court should be widened. I think they should have a lower shot clock. I think in college sports, the rules are made so that everyone has an equal chance. And that is the opposite of what real sport is. You look at the NCAA tournament, the reason why it's such a betting thing is because you could be a number one team throughout the year and play a team with a bunch of seniors and lose in the first round because guard play runs the NCAA tournament and so do coaches. You have more timeouts. You could slow the pace of the game down so that it negates all talent. You just need to have players who know how to play and you have an opportunity. The most talented players rarely win the NCAA tournament. It's usually players or teams with really good guard play and an absolutely excellent coaching. And it just is what it is. But you can't showcase your best players if you can be negated by somebody just standing in the paint doing nothing, just having a big old tree sitting out there. It's entertaining, but it is not good for the pro product. So I would change it to make it more like the NBA and make it more, again, a tier system where you would have Gonzaga, Arizona, Oregon, Kansas, Texas, all these really good storied teams play against each other so that now when St. Mary's doesn't have to, or like Gonzaga is not in that crappy conference every single year and they're number one and don't win anything. Right? It's like play real players all year. Play real teams all year. Not, no offense, that's an awful conference for such a good school. Be in a real conference outside of football.
Yeah. Dang, I'm taking that personally. I went to Loyola Marymount with Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball. So you're calling the WCC trash.
I wouldn't say it's trash, but compared to you got this big dog in Gonzaga that should be in the Pac-12, that should be in the Big Ten.
Right.
And give the other guys like Loyola Marymount, St. Mary's, an opportunity to showcase those players at that level. You're beating up on, you should be in a big conference, not that small West Coast conference.
Right.
And no offense to them, it's just not fair. Yeah. You're getting NBA products at Gonzaga. When's the last time any of the West Coast Conference had a real couple NBA players consistently between Jalen Suggs, Chet? I mean, we can go down the line. It's not fair.
All right, we're recording this on Zoom, and everyone has their little name. Yours doesn't say Channing Frye; it says Wine Lord. And here is the wine. You were kind enough to drop off a bottle. We're both in Oregon, so I got to try this the other night. I had some buddies over, and we made some steak. And Channing, it's good. It's really good, and it goes excellent with red meat. And I want to get the backstory. I know you are partnered with Kevin Love and a few other winemakers on Chosen Family Wines, but why Oregon? Why wine? Like, how'd you get into this?
So I've been in Oregon 15 years since I got traded here. I met my wife here. We reside here. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, obviously, as we talked about earlier. I had never really drank wine, even in my first couple of years in the league. Never growing up was wine a thing in my household. But then when I came out here, my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, took me wine tasting, and you had that aha moment, like,
Right.
how have I never heard of this? And how am I not going to this every weekend? It's 45 minutes that way. Literally, it's so close. And so each year, each summer, I'd come back, and with a buddy of mine, Jacob Gray, we'd go out and go wine tasting all the time. We would visit new places, try new places, and we never had a bad time. And then as we travel the world, you understand how special of a place that the Willamette Valley is. And so for me, wine started to turn into from something that is, like, oh, fun, to, man, I want to learn about the different AVAs, the terroir, the process, like the barrel aging, or, what type of grapes or varietals these are. And it became a connector between friends where I was like, oh, what kind of wine do you like? Let me go find something for you. Like, it became very unselfish. And after I retired, for 6 months, I kind of was like, what am I going to do? Right? What makes me happy? So I started writing things down, and I love food. I love laughing. I love talking. I love being around my people. And so what was something that was usually in the middle of all those things was a bottle of wine. And so for me, when I sat down with our buddies, when we created Chosen Family, I wanted it to be less about Channing and more about the winemakers and their stories. And for me to be able to use my platform to not only tell their story, but to tell a story about the Willamette Valley and about encouraging people to start their wine journey. Whereas whether that's small or large, I think more people need to go see what's out there, because that place is special. It's beautiful. And the process of a grape growing from a vine to getting to a bottle for you to enjoy is a process. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy that process. I love that process. And so does Kevin, and so does my other partners. And so we're just trying to earn trust one bottle at a time. And so it's not Channing's wine. This is the Chosen Family. And that's because we work with 4 different winemakers that have their own vineyards that do this, and that just allow me to work with them to make wines and to help people have that kind of aha moment of like, holy crap, this is good. This is not a celebrity wine. This is me doing the research, which is my favorite part of finding really good winemakers and showcasing them and showcasing the grape in the wine industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, as we discussed when we got together. You've got Drew Bledsoe, Rick Meyer, Charles Woodson, CJ McCollum. I mean, Napa Valley and the Pacific Northwest has become a hotbed, TO, for people wanting to develop wine brands. And it is a competitive business, but it seems like you've really immersed yourself in learning the business.
For sure. And I think somebody that I look up to business-wise definitely is double back with Drew Bledsoe. I've had conversations with him as we start. I think the difference between myself and Chosen Family is that we just don't have one varietal, right? One type of grape.
Right.
We have 2 types of Pinot Noir from Oregon, 2 types of Chardonnays. We have a Sonoma Coast Pinot. We have a Napa Valley, Cabernet coming. We have a Blanc de Blanc bubbles coming in 2 years. We have Syrah, Rosé. So we have a bunch of different varieties and varietals for people to encourage. So it's not just one. Also, it's less about Kevin and I and more about our winemakers. So we're trying to put them to the forefront and really showcase them and tell their story. And for, our collaboration wines, they're small. So it's only 100 cases. And then the wine that you're actually drinking is the wine that I'm actually we're trying to showcase and make it affordable and show people Pinot Noir can be made at a really good price with really good quality from what we're learning and with the knowledge that we have from the winemakers.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing that was a little surprising to me, is how affordable your wine is. I mean, didn't you say it ranges from $25, $30 up to like $70, $75?
Yeah, so the wine you have right now is part of our Willamette Valley series. And so that is a blend of different AVAs in Oregon, which is like, so our Rosé, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir range from $24 to $38. And then our collaborations, which are small, are the price of who we're working with. So that's from $50 all the way up to $75. And so those are for people who know what they like. We're like, oh, I love Walla Walla Syrah, or I love Single Vineyard, Dundee Hills, Pinot Noir, that is specifically made from like one little acre of land. So we want to encourage people to start their journey wherever, but you can't say we're being inclusive if we don't have wines that are affordable, but made with intention and quality. So that's where we are trying to juggle this business and make it so that people can get what they want to get.
One more question. I know we've got to go.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to athletes who are wanting to focus on what do I do post-career? I mean, You've done such a nice job again with the broadcasting lane, with the wine company. There's a lot of athletes, they retire and they're like, what now? What do I do? There's others that I've talked to on this show that have been really good about building relationships during their career and saying, this is my exit strategy. This is what I want to do when I'm not playing anymore. So what advice would you give?
So I would say this is, first of all, if you think you love something, outside of basketball, find somebody. There are so many avenues for professional athletes or athletes even in college to go, you know what? I like making batteries, right? For instance, oh, hey, what is this? Where is this from? Oh, Away, right? Let me call Away. Hey, I'm Channing Frye from the University of Arizona. I'd love to just follow your president. Oh, sure, come on, right? There's somebody from U of A. Or, hey, I want to get into broadcasting. Well, practice, right? Go to media training. There is no excuse in this day and age, this information age, for you not to be dabbling in different things that you may love. Whether that's, oh, how do I, let me intern for a winemaker during harvest, right? Let me just go out there for 3 days. Let me learn, right? If you can humble yourself enough to not need a paycheck and to intern for 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months, you are going to get an opportunity. Being an athlete means that you are disciplined and that you are used to most of the time being on a team. Businesses want that. They want that competitive nature. They want that teamwork, and they want somebody that can just focus in and lock in and be successful. So when you're ready to make that next step, just jump in the water, learn, write things down. What do you love? Like for me, when I retired, I was like, okay, outside of basketball, what do I love? Food. Do I want a food cart? Maybe. Let me research. I call my buddies who have food carts here. Do I like this? Do I like that? Let me make phone calls. Just do the work, find out, and just tap into the connections that you made over the years being an athlete.
Yeah, great advice. I love watching your star rise post-career.
Oh, thank you.
It's really fun. You're doing a lot of different things.
Thank you.
I think the Road Trippin podcast with you and Richard is great. You can tell that you guys have been friends since you were
a long time
younger. You guys
some damn nerves.
And I'm glad that you took the advice and you're unearthing some of the archives, because you have some great past interviews that you guys have done. And sometimes people didn't hear them the first time around. It's fun to replay them and get a little bit of insight. So
it was great. It was great. I think it just, for us, we've done 800.
Wow.
So like going back, it's been really fun to see where we came from to where we are now, where we were just audio back then, to now we have like a little studio. Now we have like all the setup, but it's been amazing. So again, thank you for that advice. I think we're going to do that for the next week or two while the NBA's kind of quiet.
Yep.
But dude, yeah, I appreciate it. We're really humbled, and I'm always glad to take advice from somebody that's done it as long as you have.
Wow. No, it's good. And you guys have had great conversations in the past, and people want to go back and listen to those. All right. How can people order a bottle of Chosen Family Wine?
So you go to chosenfamilywines.com is one. And then if you're in the area, any Zupans on the, you can go in there and get a bottle of wine right now. And then as we start to scale and as we start to grow, we'll be in different places. So definitely right now, Zupans is the only store with our wine other than ordering it online.
Yeah. I mean, we have listeners around the world, so you might get some people
here we go,
even in other countries.
Love it. Ship it away.
And I'm taking your advice. You gave me some good advice. I'm going to Europe in a few weeks. So you gave me some good advice on, how to be over there, how to act as a tourist. So I'm gonna keep it cool.
Yeah, be cool. Don't be loud. Don't be a loud American.
All right, Canning Frye. Follow him on social media at Canning Frye. Again, get a bottle of Chosen Family Wine at chosenfamilywine.com. Canning, keep up the great work. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you, man. This is great, man. I appreciate you having me on.
You're listening to Sports Business Radio. We'll be right back.